Hello, I am Cassandra of the Void. Today we'll be looking at The Sandman, a comic book originally starting in January of 1989, famously written by DC Comics. It was under the original DC Comics Vertigo adult imprint of comics and is now currently under DC's Black Label imprint. It is a very unique comic book about spirits, gods, stories, and monsters, among many other things. I've gathered Teletran 4 and what would you like to be called for the purpose of this episode?
You guys all know me as Sir Deer of Headlights anyway.
Alright, Sir Deer of Headlights. We've read the first 10 issues of Sandman, the original run, in its original form. And first, I guess, suppose we will go over our notes for each each issue one by one. Starting with episode one, do any notes like for the very start of it stand out from you two?
What immediately caught my attention was the cover guy, Dave McKean. I'd heard of him before. In fact, he worked with a favorite band of mine, show
Elaborate.
anthology that Dark Horse put out in 1992, based on the works of the band The Residents.
Oh yes, that's a real favorite of yours, isn't it?
Yeah, but you should check it out. Brian Bowen did work for it too.
I'll have to look into that.
Uh,
And
I wasn't really paying attention to many of the other names on the creators list and the credits page, but I've always been a big fan of Neil Gaiman and their work. So I was really looking forward to revisiting this universe.
starting off, we have can we just admit that especially in this kind of story specifically, messing with the concept of death is one of the worst things you could possibly do.
Oh yeah, in my notes I have, no one need ever die again. And I said, that's talk that leads to the Cancerverse, boys.
And remember, wasn't there a Torchwood special about literally that?
I think so.
And how awful it was?
Yeah.
And there's an SCP Foundation canon where they kill death and the complications of that.
Hell, even talking with Cass for so long, the topic rang a few bells.
And then my only note for the ritual itself is just Dagoth voice. Come.
And I found the idea of the Magdalene Grimoire pretty interesting, that there was a book cataloging all the Endless and everything.
It would make sense that there would be half-truths and rumors galore surrounding them on every planet throughout history.
And probably all throughout the DC multiverse, too, honestly.
Exactly, and I love that. And
And what stuck out with me in the first chapter is right from the starting bell, on top of the many mythological themes the comic borrows from, religious esotericism comes up an awful lot. Like, hell, Roderick Burgess's epitaph, not dead, only sleeping. Of course, those were more or less Jesus' exact words about Jairus' daughter. He brought back to life in the books of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, though it's also in certain sects of Christianity and actual religious belief, as far as I'm aware. Gnosticism preaches that if the soul does not achieve gnosis, basically salvation through knowledge, then the body falls asleep and the soul is reincarnated to give it another go.
and not really having much to add on that besides Yes, that is a brilliant writing. It is incredible Neil Gaiman draws on this sort of thing, and it shows why he's the best. And
Oh, even like the throwaway bits, like the dude with the Daffy Duck shirt saying, "Do it, thou wilt, Buster." That is truncated from the Aleister Crowley quote, "Do it, thou wilt, shall be the whole of the law." Now, Aleister Crowley, we all know because he was a rather obscure. He was a fringe religious icon, and David Tibet was looked up to him, and somebody Michael Kirkbride is a huge
oh
fan.
yes, I the 36 lessons ending with the ending of the words is CV is a direct reference to a similar phrase that pops up throughout Crowley's writing. And moving from that, just it really says a lot about like you can almost see this as like a metaphor for generational wealth from like colonialism and stuff. Just the fact that you have generation of and like multiple generations of this family, and all of them are too pathetic to go, hey, maybe keeping a naked guy in a fishbowl in my basement is fucked up and evil.
Oh yeah, I actually have that written down. Wow, keeping him locked up just so he's not your problem? That's a dick move, and it's causing serious problems all around the world.
Like I said,
Like,
metaphor for generational wealth. And
like my mind goes straight to the meme of the American howling retriever is a unique species of dog and totally not just a coyote I'm stuffed full of sleep meds so it won't kill me.
and then I everything about the sleepy sickness is awful. It's terrifying. I hate it. I want an SCP crossover article about this situation from their perspective. It would be really interesting.
Uh, yeah, that was
Yeah, the whole thing with Unity was rough and pretty uncomfortable.
And truth in television. Moving on. Anyway, but Neil Gaiman in a true tradition of writing modern wizard type organizations, they have the dumbest, pettiest politics possible all the time.
And apparently, one person who ended up the head of the organization doesn't even believe in magic.
Yeah, he's just conning them. Oh, the guy who's like he's the assistant and like he takes over from the original member of the family, and the audiobook gets explicitly said that they are lovers. Love wins. Your evil upper class cult is gay.
Oh, I know if I was running an evil upper class cult, it'd probably be gay.
Oh, anything you do is gay. And on the note before we and then on the note before we go to Attack of the Naked Man, from all the negatives of him missing, shout out to Wesley Dodds, the JSA era Golden Age Sandman, being an absolute chad.
Oh yeah, that was really cool.
We will be seeing more of him in a future arc. It's gonna be great. I love that story. So how stupid is this? So then we have Attack of the Naked Man,
Yeah,
and he's immediately out of the fishbowl, and he starts dressing like a '90s emo gay.
yeah. I mean, wouldn't you?
And honestly, I don't really have many notes for the rest for the ending of the issue besides just imagine the whole time you just have the ever increasing in volume chorus and the starting in the distance and slowly growing louder is just now you fucked up. Now you fucked up.
And
that was
wow.
the first real. No, your turn.
And wow, the eternal waking thing, that's one hell of a curse.
Oh, that's Morpheus for ya.
Yeah, that was the first real holy shit moment in there for me.
Yeah. Any other notes on issue 1 before we move on?
Well, I think I've got everything I've got from issue 1.
You good, dear?
Yeah, next chapter.
Starting off from my notes, SCP SCP Cain and Abel versus Sandman Cain and Abel. Which is more toxic?
That's a good question. I
'Cause holy
mean,
shit.
at least this Cain does care for his brother enough to give him a baby gargoyle, I guess.
Irving.
Also,
I get
an immediate note I have here is Prince of Stories, huh? Glaring at the pink goat on my computer screen right now.
I
the,
am legally distinct.
those poor bastards. The Wisconsin rock band comes to mind. I curse the sight of you, and yet I need you to survive, though what I live is hardly life.
That does sound like them, yeah. And then for an emotion I'm sure we can feel for when the Morpheus gets dragged in, when your boss shows up during a slow shift and you've been goofing off.
A slow shift of like 70 fucking years, yeah.
And then for when we go into nice visit to Arkham, always nice to visit Arkham, never go to Arkham.
Yeah. Also, I just have to say, Dream's Castle is very phallic.
Oh yeah, I was like, yeah, even in good shape, your taste in architecture, no.
Yeah, no.
And then for that first visit to Arkham, Dr. Disgusting.
Yeah.
Ah, yes, Dr. D. I've
And
got a lot about him in my notes.
and then you have next do you have the visit with the three fates? You'll be seeing a lot of them.
Yeah, seeing the Heket, the Greek word was something I noted as really interesting and how they seem to keep shifting between different interpretations and ideas of the word witch.
Yeah, you get a lot of that sort of thing. And then my last note for issue 2 is just that whole most pathetic man poll on Twitter.
Yeah.
Abel really should have been a contender for it.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you would know which Abel it was.
Any notes on issue 2 before I move on?
I've got a couple actually.
Sorry, didn't mean to take over. You keep going.
The Justice League being directly referenced was something that I wasn't really expecting, but I guess it happens more often in early Vertigo than you'd initially believe. And also, sorry.
Yeah, I'm saying it was really nice, and I gotta say, you know what was, and I thought the Justice League appeared in a few more issues. I thought that was more than 5.
I mean, what's a DC comic without a shit ton of crossovers?
Yeah, I'm seeing the DC stuff in issue 5. We're on issue 2.
Yeah, in issue 2, they referenced the Justice League when
Oh,
the Hecate.
No, I remember. Sorry. Yeah, the League of Justice, seeing Batman and everything.
Yeah,
It's nice to see that they are part of the world in overall.
and
Even
then bringing up Constantine and Dream using that, and he is just a man. I'm just like, really now? Oh, Dream, you have no idea. You have no idea.
Any more notes from you either of you, for the issue 2?
I was just saying with
Yeah.
with Constantine and everything, the note of him being just a man. That's true, but
Not.
yeah. So issue 3 then, I guess.
Anything from you for anything else from you for issue 2, dear?
Nope.
Anyway, issue 3. My note on the opening is just, wow, I hate this.
Honestly, I only have one note about issue 3 myself, and it's just pretty fun Constantine adventure.
You want me to just run through my notes real quick then?
If you
Sure.
want.
How about you, dear? You want to run through your notes for issue 3? Because I actually have a decent amount on this one.
I don't have my notes arranged by chapter.
I do. John just talking to the city. That's literally just a stat in Disco Elysium. So John Dubois, Harry Constantine, the amalgam character from Hell.
Oh God.
Oh, a Constantine game in the style of Disco Elysium would be really fitting, wouldn't it?
That would be quite good. If you want to date John Constantine, you must defeat his 54,965 evil exes.
5% of which have a stake to his soul in hell. Only 5% of them.
Surprisingly. Because as my next note says, seriously, he has hideous judgment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then wall-to-wall parenting. Because, oh my god. That shit went fucking necromorph on him, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And then those fucking dream things, and then the least appealing nude shot possible.
True.
Oh God, and oh, and Rachel actually introduced another thread that I don't know if the comic actually explores in any detail. Like, the Sandman tends towards some rather literal use of idioms. For one, he actually is Death's little brother. And for the other, how does he euthanize Rachel? By putting her to sleep.
Exactly. And then John Constantine needs like the kind of therapy that's like a full medical dedicated team at a university just for him. Like a case study for decades. You get what I mean? That's the kind
Yeah, poor Constantine.
and let me tell you, that little bit of what happened to him, his life is a parade of that.
Oh my God. Of course it gets worse. It always gets worse.
This guy got out of dying by the fact of that his so many factions owned his soul that they resurrected him to resurrected him and banned him from hell to prevent the war for his soul from just splitting hell up in a huge civil war. He does this kind of shit all the time. Also, he fucked a shark man once. That's a thing he did.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah, King Shark.
There's a bit in, I think it was the Harley Quinn show, where John Constantine, no, it's in Justice League Dark, the animated movie. You see in a bar, you see King Shark hanging out with Harley Quinn, and Constantine's like, "Oh my, it's my ex," and no one's just, Harley, do I look insane? And King Shark just winks at John. And I feel I need to mention that. So there's also the kids' cartoon Justice League Action, which is more of an anthology series, short stories with different characters teaming up with more popular ones. Constantine teamed up with Zatanna and Batman. And the ending of the episode is him going through a portal through what is clearly succubus prostitutes in a bed, and the portal closes.
Yep, even in the kids' show, John brings his sleaziness.
He is a bisexual trash fire.
You could get away with a lot more back then.
Oh,
And-
Justice League Action was actually a relatively recent show. Like, as recent as, 2018.
Seriously.
Jesus.
And and then closing my notes on just Mr. Sandra. And then
That's the thing.
moving to issue 4, how to go real fast. Jump.
Yeah, I suppose that works.
I
I
love the portrayal of the gates of hell. Very poetic.
There was
And
actually mention after Dream meets up with the Hell Tribunal that I didn't think would come up later, but actually does.
and what? Oh,
Running into Dream's former lover Nada.
Yeah, I just we just can't go 5 minutes with a reminder that our protagonist is a real piece of fucking shit, huh?
Oh yeah.
And before that, we have yes, the new prequel from HBO Max, Etrigan the Intern. Because this is him before he's like at the rank we know him in for most of comic books.
I also found
one thing I noted is that
I was going to say that I found the depiction of Lucifer really fascinating, and how they consistently use "we" when referring to themselves.
Because they are royalty. And
and that
I just want to say for my notes for Lucifer, just initially just yes, the Lightbringer, David Bowie. David Bowie,
and that all
slightly more androgynous. That's it.
and that all further ties into the themes of religious esotericism, Luciferianism in particular, which is also, although Luciferian beliefs also turn up in Gnosticism. From like the very start, he refers to Lucifer as the morning star, which is a common nickname among worshippers. And further, even his appearance ties into the notion in a few religions, like again Gnosticism, of evil and beauty being one and the same. And there is, of course, the fact that hell makes distinction between Lucifer and Beelzebub.
And then
But these are two separate characters.
Muffled Bohemian Rhapsody joke, obviously.
And I mean, if you like the Gnostic and esoteric references about Lucifer and the demons of hell in this universe in this book, it would later get spun off into the Lucifer Vertigo imprint book. So you might want to check that out sometime, dear.
I believe it actually got a show too.
Oh, it got a couple of different shows, actually.
And then, of course, we have the third member of the Tribunal of Hell, the Lore Master. I mean, Azazel. Okay, be real with. Okay, be real with me. Be real with me. Was that not a joke you had in your notes?
Actually, I was just referring to them by their nicknames from Helltaker, honestly. As Beale and Lucy ruling three-way is interesting, is what I wrote.
Of course. And then you have immediately after that just Phil Swift voice. That's a lot of demons!
Also, I'd like to point out that I had read a little bit of Sandman and even Lucifer prior, so I think it will come off as entirely unsurprising to you that the interpretation of Lucifer I've written for the Deimos verse and for Shining Light is actually pretty heavily influenced by the Sandman and Vertigo version.
That is entirely unsurprising, yes. And then from specifically for our minor antagonist of the episode, Karanzan looks like if there was a fate servant, like if you rolled a new fate servant and it was foreigner syphilis.
God!
Like the Corazon thing was like a bit surprising because that was the point where I realized they were really going all in on the DC references when they brought up anti-life of all things.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and the way it's presented is almost counter to how it's usually presented as like an all-consuming thing, which actually goes with some of the stories I prefer with anti-life, like as the end of Final Crisis, which is absolutely Tiv. I absolutely would love to do if we can get some more hero fans in here to do a podcast covering some of the Crisis events.
Oh, that's fair.
And but yes, that the way it ends is counter to most portrayals, but not the ending of the Final Crisis event, which is all about dark side and anti-life. And this is actually surprisingly in tone with that, and I think that's what made me think about this. So I like it a lot.
Yeah, Hope being the final trump card against anti-life was really nice. But I
And then
couldn't help but find their whole slam poetry battle basically similar to like two kids at a playground being like, but I have a force field.
it's
I
like
think that was what they were going for.
it's like that, but like if there was actual rules and stakes, so you can't just just do a hard counter because that's cheating. You have to play the game and write the story. Like it's not like, oh, I have the gun. Yeah, but you turned thinking I'm collapsed, but I've got a vest. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
The telling the story of twists and turns and cornering your opponents rather than just nuh-uh.
So, Duelist Kingdom Yu-Gi-Oh rules.
Exactly. And then after that, you have me with just both bad bad YouTube video title Morpheus owns hell with dreams and hope.
Oh my god. That might end up being the fucking thumbnail joke.
Do it, make that
Yeah,
the title.
yeah, speaking of the residents, pain and pleasure, the twins that slightly out of focus spin around us till we finally understand that everything that gives us pleasure also gives us pain to measure it by.
That's the definition of Slanesh to bring in a different kind of thing too.
And here I was just going to say, sounds like a win-win to me because I'm a masochist, but moving on.
And then you have me for the Lucifer forced to let Morpheus go. Just take your fucking drip and get out.
Just fucking take it!
And then we end this issue on the worst piece of jewelry I have seen in a long time.
Oh yeah.
And then we any more notes on issue 4?
No, I was almost about to start talking about what I have on issue 5, honestly, because that one had a lot to it.
Yeah,
And a
and then
lot of questions that made me scratch my head a little bit too.
Okay, I'm gonna start off with issue 5. Dr. G looks more like he should be in the undead asylum instead. And then Jonathan Crane, lawful evil theater gay.
I mean, yeah. Also, I found it really interesting that Dr. Destiny was yet another one of those Golden Age characters that they brought into and connected with the Endless lore. That was really interesting, actually.
I really like that a lot. Bringing back older stuff can really make done right like this can really make it more part of the world and make it feel cohesive. And that's really what I love about comics, you know?
Mm-hmm. Also, just trust me, I'm a doctor. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, that and then the nightmare scene of Apocalypse was very interesting to see.
Oh yeah. My note is bad and naughty children get put in the murder machine. I see. I see.
Imagine just you see the outside of the box outside of that whole torture device, right? You see a big, in huge, ominous apocalypse style brutalist letters. Parawiggler.
See, I thought you were going to say it'd be saying gay baby jail.
No, that's where they put him if you can't escape the Parawiggler. And then but I also had the note that popped into my head of you know that song, the Queen song Miracle?
Oh yeah, I love that song.
If they ever do a Mr. Miracle and Big Barda movie, they need to have that song in it.
That's fair.
They have to have that be the fucking trailer theme. And also, he also needs that whole dedicated team kind of therapy too, I think.
Oh yeah.
And
I found it
you
interesting that Morpheus appeared to Jean as the big Martian god.
like it was the god of stories specifically. It wasn't I can't remember his name, but there's another big one. Here it says Lazoro was his name. I can't remember the name of the big Haranmir. That's the main guy.
Yeah, the one who appeared in that one Captain Marvel story where he was getting new god powers.
And Dr. D found the nicest woman in the world, apparently.
Yeah, Jesus. Honestly, I was even starting to feel somewhat sympathetic for him.
Yeah, like, even if he's fucked up and evil, his mind's just been peeled apart, basically.
Oh yeah.
I want him to be taken down, but more in, like, a wild animal way, you get me?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, I found it interesting that they referred to the town of Mayhem as being an upstate Gotham. Gotham was an entire state at this point in DC?
Yeah, I feel like that's just awkward writing. That's more like Jersey, but, like, Jersey doesn't have much of an upstate, you know?
Yeah.
I really wish they would have
Jersey is the upstate.
Yeah. But, like, sometimes I wish DC would be a little less ambiguous about where the new cities are, because I like having that kind of alternate history stuff that's defined. You get me?
To be fair, it is outright canon that DC Earth is legitimately larger than real Earth.
Yeah, and I think that's stupid. But like some stuff, Metropolis is the real Metropolis, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also I've also saw one comic where someone ends up in Metropolis, Illinois, looking for Metropolis by accident.
That's confusing.
So, but yeah, moving on from that. Anything else from issue 5 before we move on?
I was honestly impressed that somehow D had managed to modify Dream's Ruby so much that it had outright been repelling him.
Yeah, I feel like it was like more tuned to madness and Morpheus was already weakened, you know?
Yeah.
It was full of
Hello?
insane. It was full of bad, and it was full of rancid vibes.
That was the first sign of things to come.
And then moving into episode 6, issue 6, we good?
Yeah.
We have
The big one.
We have we have Nepeta style shipping, but in Nebraska, from someone from Nebraska, honestly, honestly, you know what the big plot hole for me here is, right?
Huh.
We have a small, primarily white town, right? How did he not get the cops called on him 5 times? Can't you just if this was real? Can't you just imagine this happens now? And you just hear some fucking some middle-aged ones like, oh, there's a scary homeless guy here on 911.
Oh
And
yeah.
then they tase him and drag him off to jail. That's what would have happened. They are that white. I'm convinced of it.
Oh yeah, especially
Well,
exploring.
you have to consider this dude pretty much had shit.
What was that?
Here go, Ivy.
I was trying to say that, and the extreme white conservativeness really comes through of the people here for the most part when we get Bet's internal monologue there and how she extremely voyeuristically writes about her customers and fantasizes about a lesbian couple settling down with men.
Yeah, they would have called the cops. And
Yeah,
really,
honestly,
and really, I don't really have any notes. Just no, this is fucked up and scary. It's well done, but no.
yeah, honestly, my theory as to why he didn't get the cops called is that this dude pretty much had reality as we know it in his pocket.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
about.
So
If he's like being if he's subconsciously making them ignore him or something. Yeah.
yeah, though
And
what I will give Bed Monroe this. That was like one could take it as the one could take it as Gaiman himself musing on what it means to write, but it
Oh no, I'm
also
pretty sure it's
suggests
not.
that yeah, exactly. But he also implies that writing about her customers is her way of writing reality around the or of rewriting reality around the what she perceives of other people for her own entertainment, which is exactly what John Dee spends the entire issue doing.
Oh yeah, with the initial things happening in the diner and everything. At first, I had the minor impression that somehow Dee was actually causing Bet stories to form briefly before things ended up going off the rails. Clearly.
and then anything more for the issue 6 before I move into the meat of e- awful bad.
I mean, I noted that um he's that he was probably going to kill them, and for a lot of them, he did. And a lot of the deaths were really gruesome and everything too. But also, I found the random orgy in the behind the counter, and him just sitting on the counter, looking back at it, going, "Neat, hilarious."
Yeah,
Yeah.
just it's like the opposite alignment wise of like morally okay and offended is in front of my salad, and
Neat.
morally wrong and okay with it is neat. And then moving on to next the issue 7, lot of bad shit at the front, the scene, all these scenes of brutality as man's inner madness is brought out. And it isn't the Joker doing this. You're sure it's not it's not Scarecrow. What? That's what I'm thinking. Everyone on the watchtower is like, okay, is Joker out? He would unleash poison. No, Scarecrow's still in. Killed a random doctor, but that's it. What's going on?
Also, into issue 7, I was just like, Dream, do you really think you're going to manage to reason with a madman?
Yeah, well, Dream's an idiot.
Yeah, Death points that out later, doesn't she?
Yeah, and then the recurring phrase of "listen, you can hear it." It's a really good recurring anchor of words, really done well for those scenes.
And this issue also introduces like a hell of a literary device from the from who was it again? It was Dringenberg and the Colorists. Like the deliberate usage of like all white panels to imply the boundaries of a character's world at any given point.
Also, I just always love the gas mask symbolism with Dream's helm and everything.
The dream fight was surreal, short, and sweet.
I do have the
Yeah, like
comment of "Are you my mummy?" because of all the copy dreams throughout.
Yep. And
That one last panel throughout was where it's just like the Sandman reveals that he was not defeated. In fact, Dr. D did the absolute opposite. Now he's totally fucked.
Oh yeah.
That was a jaw dropper.
that is a fantastic panel. And then it just ends on the Dream being merciful and showing that, he's not all bastard for once. And then my final note on this initial storyline is just all's well that ends hell. So
Something about
overall, what do you think of that whole initial Dr. D arc?
there's got to be something about Dr. D telling the Scarecrow there's no place like home.
Oh yeah.
And
I'm
then
I'm very much sure that that was an intentional Oz reference.
oh, definitely. It was interesting to see that take on Dr. Crane. And I will say he is one of the actors who's actually a character whose characters like he doesn't really have much of a role in the audiobook much like any more than this, but he is quite well done. Also, Dr. D's voice makes me want to take a shower.
That's
And
fair.
and then moving on to issue 8, we good for that?
Yeah.
Imagine you encounter the true Omega, the ending at the ending waiting for all things, the absolute terminus of all that is. She will come for all that lives, as she has come for all that has lived, and she will come for all that will ever live. And she's a goth GF.
Yeah, my first note is, yes, death and awakening to many into the world of goth girls.
And that's not very far out of line with what Coyle and Current 93 said about death. Like, I forget what Coyle was quoting, but in the golden section, they argue that the point of death is that when the soul sees death, it falls in love, and so is withdrawn from the gaze of the body.
I remember there was one interesting story, a short story I read about someone with suicidal tendencies who met a beautiful woman who was very kind to him, and it found out that that woman was in fact death, and she looks the more beautiful or ugly to you depending on if you desire death or fear it. And he sees her, and she's nice enough that she genuinely doesn't want people to die early, and she's encouraging to him to get better and everything, and in the end is just him seeing her again, and there's just this hideous old woman across from him, and she just has this huge smile on her face as he passes. So
That's
yeah,
interesting.
I really like her as a take on death, and honestly, I can't, and I will, and I might as well just say this outright. Episode 1, between her and death in the Discworld books, which there will absolutely be a podcast about once I have my own channel sorted out. Between those two deaths, the death of the Endless and the death of the Disc, I am actually slightly less scared of dying with the idea of death as a companion, someone whose job it is to make sure you get on the right path. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
And
Also,
I
then
think so.
and we with death coming in, we have the first of the arc I will call out post for Morpheus.
oh yeah, and like with Dream struggling with depression and general mental health issues, it seems, and Death saying he's my brother and he's an idiot. I just was thinking, oh, that sounds like when I'm coming up to poke at Cass, and it's just she's my sister and she's an idiot.
You shush. But yes, I loved this. After the Dr. D drama, it was nice to have this refresher following Death on her rounds, and the imagery of flapping wings, that's beautiful.
Oh, and
It's
yeah,
still,
I was
it's
just
still
go-
plenty of moments where it hit that hard.
But yeah, I was just going to say that I had a feeling that Franklin was going to die as soon as Death was like, "I'll see you soon."
Yeah. But then first that old Jewish dude, oh my god, he seems like the coolest old dude.
The baby, for Christ's sakes, the baby.
Yeah, I just like I just have my notes. So who's brave enough to make a dead baby joke?
Oh God, my note on that was just, man, must be heartbreaking to have to be Death.
Oh yeah. And then in between that I just have Amazon's basics microphone be like.
I wasn't even thinking about that. I wasn't even thinking about making jokes. They handled that way too well.
Yeah, I just had to make some. But yeah, this issue ends on on Dream maybe starting to get his shit together. I really like him as a character, even though oh my, actually I think the term would be a Byronic hero.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
And any more issues for this? Any more notes for this issue?
Not for this one.
Anyway,
Not
moving
really.
on. And then I don't think we'll have much for 9 besides I really like the style and the approach of the myth is really interesting. The style of the issue is great, but I don't really have much to say on the contents of the issue besides wow, we're really going all in on gods being bastards, huh?
I mean, yeah,
The Greeks
I
did it.
found the unexplained secret tribe interesting. I wasn't sure whether they were supposed to be during the modern day or whether this was a look of the past being told of the past. Or
I think it's meant to be a little ambiguous. And when they talk about how, oh yeah, we're the first people, we keep it secret. It's like every people thinks they're the first people at some point, you know?
Yeah, those. I think it's still an important chapter because it draws a lot of parallels between what has happened and what happens later on. Like
Yeah, I just don't really have much
one,
to say on it, just because what happens is so heavy, you know.
I
like
also found it
Michael and
interesting.
Nada's courtship.
I was going to say
Michael and
that
Nada's courtship.
Okay, okay, Tiv, you first. You first.
I was going to say that I found it interesting that it carries over another character trait of Dreams that was first established in the previous issue, that he has a fondness for birds.
And you'd pen. I mean, deer.
Is like just to get into the stuff we've already covered, the parallels between Keiko and Nada's courtship and the Sandman's fight with Corazon.
And then, do you want to? Let's finally move on to issue 10 to finish
I
off.
actually have a few more notes.
Okay, okay. I'm sorry. Let's get your final notes.
So I found it interesting that we were going to find out what Nada did to piss Dream off so much back during the Hell thing, and the whole um hunting thing, hunting for him, and then her seeming to already know of the Endless. And I also found it interesting how the Endless are seen as gods, but not, and the fact that Nada ended up dying because of refusing to let the Forbidden Love continue to wreak havoc on the world.
Yeah, responsibility bringing you pain, which is like a theme. I think that's a major theme of Sandman. Responsibility and what it does to people.
Yeah, I can see that.
Anyway, issue 10.
Yeah, and right away the parallels drawn by issue 9 turn up, like the Sandman's ruby, the ruby in Keiko's chest, and Desire's bare heart. It brings up a quote from issue 9 right away. Love is no part of the dream world. Love belongs to desire, and desire is always cruel.
Yeah, my first note is just muffled U2's Desire. Is that just playing at all times? Just if you just stand in there and listen, if you just hear that playing faintly in the distance.
I
But
just
yeah,
found that Desire and Despair planning to toy with Dream was not a good sign whatsoever.
Desire creeps the fuck out of me. Despair is creepy but honest.
Like, I mean, desire. I mean, we all know what the Greek myths said about ambition.
Oh yeah. And then like when we're seeing the sensinesses and everything, I just want to say Dream, Morpheus, I know you're dumb as dirt, right? Why would you make guys called Brute and Glob even remotely important? They are named Brute and Glob. That's like saying, okay, Bulk and Skull, you can be my new generals.
I mean, there was. I mean, let us not forget the parable of Major Richard Bong, the, for whom is named Major Bong High,
Actually,
legendary flying ace of World War One.
Major Dick Bong, I Teletran 4, Major Dick Bong, actual pilot.
And let us not forget the mandolin virtuoso, Vincent Bear Demandé. If you had his touring schedule, you'd demand a beer too.
And I before we move on, I feel I should also mention the similarly named stuntman for noted actors such as Kurt Russell as Snake Plissken. I believe he was also Michael Myers at least once. Dick Warlock. And moving on out of those rich Corinthian leather.
God.
Oh, you're gonna have fun with Corinthian. Spoiler, it will not be fun. And I also say about the Fiddler's Green, who you will you will have fun with, and and when I say fun, I mean a lot of fun. He's a really great guy. You'll like him a lot. And it said about him the word Vavasaur or Vavasaur. I looked it up. It's spelled Vavasaur. It was in the comic. And it means a vassal owing allegiance to a powerful lord and having other vassals under him. So it's medieval speak for district manager. But then you have and then after at the end of that scene, the messing with the fourth wall is it's revealed that the girl is dreaming it. That was very fun.
Oh yeah.
And before I keep going with mine, any more notes? Any notes you want to get into right now?
Not right now.
And then that getting this girl's interesting, like, and that vision of we have the maiden, the mother, and the other one, with those three appearing again, and more interesting, a lot of foreshadowing, not all of it cryptic as fuck. But yeah, man, it's a real bittersweet issue to me. Like, even if what with how horrible what happened to Unity was, like, she's waking up, she's getting her stuff together with what she has left of her life, and she's just focused on, I want to be happy with my daughter and granddaughter, and I'm so proud of them. And man, I love Unity so far, and you're gonna see a lot more of her. She's just a delight. And then it ends on
Mm-hmm.
something fucking horrible.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, you're
And,
gonna have some not fun at all with Corinthian.
And I was
I mean,
saying
it says
that
right there on the cover, part one.
yeah. And I was going to say that I called Rose's mom being Unity's baby the minute I realized Unity was coming back into the story. I have it in the notes just, oh, Unity. And then I was like, oh, is Rose's mom Unity's baby? And
And
after that, I just have, well, that's an uncomfortable cliffhanger for us to end off on.
so, any last notes to go through? Or are we good?
But like all I have is like And all I have is like in response to like Rose and Miranda's reaction, these things happen to other people. They don't happen at all, in fact.
And okay, then finishing up, we'll do a few like just closing segment things. First off for this episode, Morpheus check-in. So how at what level of bastard on a scale of 1 to 10 would we say Morpheus is standing on right now?
At least a 5.
Or
He could
what
be a lot worse.
I'm saying
Yeah.
1 to 10, what scale of from 1 to 10 of 1 being relatively innocent and 10 being shit bastard from hell? Where would you put him?
Horror, so
I'd put him at like 6, honestly.
Honestly, I'm still going with 5, honestly.
Okay, then following is that current favorite character out of the main cast?
Uh,
Rose, definitely Rose.
I like Irving.
I'm a sucker for death, I'm not gonna lie, but you're gonna see some more minor characters that are gonna be great. And then favorite minor character. Like some like one-off guy. If any you don't have to get you don't have to give one. I'm just saying, did any minor characters stick out to you this in these issues?
Uh,
Because I feel like
like,
Neil Gaiman really shines in like having a minor incidental character, even there if like are only a couple panels, they get a chance to shine for that moment. You get me?
like Betty Monroe for not so much the character herself, but for what purpose she serves. And she's her scene is pretty short, but she is an absolutely flawless harbinger for things to come in ways that don't really make sense until you're already partway through.
Yep. Oh yeah, I forgot one question. One note I had. Let me check it. Oh yeah, from the bit of wizard politics when the guy got lost his protection from the curse, it was like what? Did they make him it would like with how he died was like like if he hit his fucking killbind in TF2, like you know the explosion killbind? He died like they forced him to hit his killbind.
God.
And trust me, it's hilarious in the audiobook. It's like no squash, and it's like this huge exploding squelching noise, and it's fantastic.
Close second is the guardsman in the first chapter with the "Do What Thou Wilt" Buster shirt. I kind of want that one now.
Yeah, that does seem like a shirt you would wear all the time.
I'm not even religious. I just like current 93.
And anyway, before we finish up, any current theories on what's going on? Any predictions? Things that you expect to happen or think might happen?
I get the feeling that 90% of all the stuff with desire and despair is going to be drastically, drastically critical and messy for the mortals involved in the story. But at the very end of the day, for Zenless, it probably is just playing a game.
Dear?
I'm just looking forward to seeing more of Rose.
All right. And any closing thoughts on what you think of this comic in its first 10 issues?
Like,
I I've definitely found it
Vertigo,
really interesting.
like, Vertigo is like a masterclass, and this is in comic writing, and this is just one more example of it.
We'll have to maybe we'll have to cover the what it was was it Hellblazer? That
Yes,
was
John Constantine's books are the Hellblazer series.
well, we'll have to see about maybe doing Hellblazer after we finish Sandman. How about that?
That could be fun. Also,
Well,
pitch for someone to play Dream in a live-action adaptation. David Tennant in a really shitty David Bowie cosplay.
Did you forget they're actually doing a Netflix live action one?
Oh, I did forget that.
I forget who's playing him, but honestly, my personal recommendation for anyone who's more interested in a non-comics way of reading this, though the comics I would recommend reading, they're a bit out of date in some ways, storytelling-wise, that we will come to. Like, actually, no, I'll bring up one of them here. Desire is consistently referred to as an it in this comic. This is often seen as dehumanizing for obvious reasons, but I just want to say these facts for the sake of fairness. This was initially published in 1989, going into the 90s, which even back then, any sort of awareness of non-binary identities as a concept was really, really primitive for the most part in America, and Britain, especially in that era. The new audiobooks use they them pronouns due to the more refined sensibilities. I think a big part of the justification early on with this comic was that for consistently in this title, the endless are referred to as not truly being people, not in the sense of a dehumanizing way, but more they are more pillars of reality that happen to have personalities. So Neil Gaiman was working from a rough, limited perspective, but he has just shown since then in his improved ability to do representation. He's not perfect, nobody is, but he has been learning, he's done better, and it really shows that while I don't really use this casually, when it comes to a writer who's known for learning and growing, this really is a product of its time.
And but on the other hand, this predate the hobby of Kajinka by several decades.
And I think that's about time for us to wrap it up. I am Cassandra of the Void. I have been discussing Sandman issues 1 to 10 with Teletran 4 and Sir Deer of Headlights. We don't have an exact date, but let's plan on recovering the next 10 issues after the new Nightmare episode. Actually, no, Fringe will be sooner, but after our Fringe episode, plan on episode issues 11 through 20.
Yeah, sounds good.
This has been Cassandra, Teletran 4, and Sir Deer of Headlights signing out.
But real quick, dear, if you had any projects or any social media you wanted to shout out real quick.
And we'll put those links in the description, of course.
None that are in any real state of completion.
But yes, there are some future projects, and I hope to be helping to promote them when they are ready.
Could be years.
I'll probably still be doing this years from now.
But yeah, we'll see you all later, and enjoy whatever the hell it is you do next.
You're all stars, signing out.